I'm the head of Mental Health Promotion Department. This year, we have chosen the theme Redefining Psychosocial Support in the Management of Persons with Bipolar Affective Disorder as our theme for the celebration. This topic has become critical considering the fact that people with mental disorders experience stigma, which is underpinned by lack of knowledge and negative attitudes towards them. So we thought it very critical to bring in this point so that at the end of the day, our friends, family members, colleagues, brothers and sisters would experience the support they deserve from us. I would not talk much because our time is very limited, but hopefully at the end of the day, we'll be able to share ideas, inspire ourselves to support others, know the resources available, including the opportunities we can explore to help our family members, family and friends, colleagues. Let me quickly go through the program lineup for the day. When I'm done with the program lineup, I'll quickly go through the housekeeping rules, and our chief executive, in the person of Professor Psychosocial, is also part of us, who would give us a welcome address. Thereafter, our resource persons would self-introduce themselves, as well as providing opening statements to this program. Subsequently, we would delve into the question and answer session, whereby I'll ask the resource persons questions and they will respond. After that, I would open the floor for all attendees to ask questions. We should be concluding the program after that. Please, at this point, let me go through the housekeeping rules. As you might know, this is a huge gathering. So I would advise all attendees to mute their microphones until you are ready and allowed to talk. Please do raise your hand and you will be allowed to speak, and wait for your turn. I would advise that you do not interrupt when somebody is speaking. Again, let's remind attendees that mental disorders and bipolar disorder, which we are going to discuss, is a sensitive issue. So when we get to the question and answer session, I would plead your indulgence to be sensitive in how you pose your questions. Thank you very much. That's for the housekeeping. At this point, I'll invite our Chief Executive Officer in the person of Professor Psychosocial to give the welcome address to this program. Prof. He should unmute himself.
I realized I was unmuted. I was muted, sorry. Yeah, so thank you very much, Dr. Arthur. And very good morning to you all. To our distinguished speakers, I welcome you. We have Dr. Erickson, Edison, we have Dr. Mabuadu, we have Mr. Masope, and we have Ms. Dra. You're all welcome. And distinguished participants, 75, that's great. You are all welcome. This is really, I believe, with the distinguished speakers and all of you, our interactions, we are going to have an interesting time to understand more about bipolar disorder and to be able to help to disseminate the information. What we are lacking generally in Ghana is the awareness of bipolar and other mental disorders, but particularly bipolar for today. So if you can get some good understanding of it and share amongst others, you'll be getting towards having a grasp on the issue. So once again, I want to thank you, and let's all participate. So you'll have a very interesting session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro, for this short and incisive address. Well, I'll not waste much time. We'll go straight into action with the question and answer session to our resource persons. I think the first person I'll ask is Dr. Amabuedu. Dr. Ama, can you please?
I thought you said you'd introduce themselves before you start, or as they come, they introduce further. What do you prefer? Since you've not introduced them fully, maybe let them introduce themselves fully before the questions come in.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Ama, can you please introduce yourself?
So good morning to us all. My name is Dr. Amabuedu. As Dr. Atta has already said, I'm a psychiatrist and the Deputy Director for Mental Health, Ghana Health Service. I'm excited to be part of this discussion on this particular day, World Bipolar Day. I think that it's very important that we all share some time discussing this issue because it's very common with us. It will be very helpful if we know, everybody knows how he or she can contribute to helping other people who are suffering from this particular disorder and their family members as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amabuedu. Dr. Erica Edison, can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning to everyone. My name is Erica Tamfrikwa Dixon. I am a physician and a clinical psychologist, and I work with the 37 Military Hospital. I am happy and honored to be here.
Thank you very much. DNA Masope, can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning to everyone. My name is DNA Masope. I'm a mental health advocate living with bipolar. And I'm also Executive Director of DNM Foundation. It's a nonprofit mental health organization committed to addressing mental health stigma and awareness. And I'm also a writer, and I used to work as a chartered insurer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DNA. SNM, please introduce yourself. Hello, Essie. Hello, SNM, can you hear me? Hello, SNM. SNM, would you please check your microphone? Your microphone is not too clear. Oh. Hello, I guess we are not hearing SNM very well. When the opportunity brings itself, we'll let her introduce herself. We'll go straight into the question and answer session because we are running by a strict time. Dr. Amma, can you please tell us in simple terms what bipolar disorder is, how it manifests itself, the risk factors involved, and all that?
Okay, thank you very much. So in simple terms, bipolar affective disorder is falls in a group of what we call the mood disorders. So one's mood is basically the person's emotional state over a period of time. I'm sorry I have to be in the mask because I'm in a public space. So, and then when we talk about this particular part, disorder, bipolar also simply means that there are two poles to a particular thing. In this particular disorder, we are looking at the two ends or two extremes of one's mood, which could be a depressed mood, where the person is overly sad or extremely sad, and then a manic episode, which is where it's exactly the opposite of a depressed mood. So in depression, which is one part or the extreme or one end of the bipolar disorder, the individual is extremely sad, and this continues for over a period of 2 weeks, 2 weeks and beyond. An individual that is feeling extremely sad for no apparent reason. Sometimes there might be a reason for which an individual would explain why he or she is feeling sad, but the reason might not explain the extent to which this person is feeling so sad. So sometimes they cry for no apparent reason. So we say they have crying spells. With this comes um, 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 with this comes a disturbance in their sleep. For some people, they sleep excessively, others do not sleep at all. Another very important symptom or presentation of depression is that the person feels tired all the time. So that is what we refer to as fatigue. Then there's a special presentation where they lose interest in the things, or there's a decrease in the things that they used to derive pleasure from, activities they used to derive pleasure from. Another thing a person that is depressed would present us with would be forgetfulness or concentration.
Charlie, also.
Mute all of this. Thank you very much, Dr. Amma, for that response. Quite insightful there. DNA, you've heard Dr. Amma giving us what bipolar disorder is, the signs and symptoms, how it presents itself. Could you tell us what your experience was? How was the onset of your condition? What were your experiences? Hello, DNA. Mr. Masope.
Okay. Looking back at my childhood, I'll say that there was a progression of signs from as early as perhaps 8, 9, 10 years old. Then in primary school, GSS, I used to be very obsessed with death, and I'll talk about dying and all that. I don't know, so I showed signs of aggression. It was very inconsistent. Sometimes I was very, I mean, when you see me being aggressive, it was like out of the blue, and you'll be like, "Is this really David?" Yeah. And then also there was hyperactivity. I used to have the desire to be involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and then I'll be dropping out soon. Not long after I've been involved in it. But in SHS, I earned a tag from my friends, weird. Now, that's what they all called me. In fact, if you go back to any of my mates, SHS University, and you ask them to describe me one word, perhaps you always say weird or something. And so this were basically the memories that I have from the onset. There wasn't any extreme sadness. There was just inconsistency in behavior. And but in my final year in SHS, I exhibited a very extreme behavior out of the blue, and I wasn't on the radar of any of the school authorities. And so when it came up, the school authorities felt that something was wrong because all my mates said that was not me, but I'm not used to doing that kind of thing. It was, and so the school authorities asked me to go and see a psychiatrist for an examination. But actually, nothing came of it. When I went, I was being asked about substance abuse, and I've not been involved in anything like that. So nothing came of it. It was after SHS I got my first job, and it was so stressful for me. And I quit in the first month. After the first month, I quit. No one understood why I did that. I couldn't explain to myself. I couldn't explain to anyone. I didn't understand what was wrong. But after that period, that's when I first experienced extreme sadness. And then I told my dad that I needed to go and see a doctor because I didn't understand what was happening to me. And it took another 3 years before I was finally diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Yeah,
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is Ms. Esenamdra online? Hello, Ms. Esenam. I guess she's still not been able to join us. All right. Erica, what role does the psychologist play? What special role does the psychologist play in the management of a person with bipolar disorder? Dr. Erica? Hello, Dr. Erica Dixon. I think she might have dropped off. Dr. Amma, let me ask you.
I am back in. I'm
Okay.
sorry. The network
do I repeat my question?
I'm sorry.
Do I repeat my question? Yes.
I wasn't in when you asked the question.
Oh, okay. I was asking you, what specific role would a psychologist play in the management of a person with bipolar disorder?
Okay. So the mainstay of bipolar disorder is pharmacotherapy or the use of medications. However, because of the nature of the illness, it is important to aim to deal with the symptoms as well as prevent recurrence. And so besides medication, psychological treatment is very helpful to people who are living with bipolar disorder. Psychologists would help them manage their depressive episodes, especially help them cope with the disorder and then the stresses of daily living that they encounter, which is usually a trigger for them getting relapses. And then through the use of psychotherapy, these are evidence-based interventions or therapies. They're able to help them challenge their thoughts, especially the very negative thoughts. They challenge this, they build up evidence for and against these negative thoughts that they have. Additionally, psychologists support or help significant people in the lives of persons living with bipolar disorder, because it can be extremely stressful. It can cause a lot of disruption in interpersonal relationships. disruptions in their work. And sometimes those even who wish to support are so stretched that they are beside themselves. So psychoeducation, or educating these persons and the significant others in their lives, gives them a clear understanding of what the disorder is about and prepares them to know what to expect. And then the supportive therapies that is given to both the individual and their significant others is what carries them through and makes their quality of life so much better, makes them able to recognize when the signs and symptoms are showing up so they can seek help early before it becomes disruptive to their functioning. And
Wow.
let me say that it's not only clinical psychologists that can help in the management of such persons, but also counseling psychologists, and Ghana has both.
That's really a very important support there that the clinical psychologists do play. My understanding is that S&M has joined us. So I'll invite S&M, who is the fourth resource person, a person with a lived experience, to introduce herself, and I would ask her a question that she missed. Ms. S&M, please, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay,
Yes,
so
we can.
Okay, so my name is Esenam. I am 26 years old. I'm the projects coordinator for Mental Health Society of Ghana. And aside all that, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2015. Is my intro too long? Or I can say it all.
No, it's not too long.
Okay,
Yes, go
so
on.
Okay, so at the time I was diagnosed, I was in my third year at the University of Ghana, and it has not been a rosy journey. I'm still on my road to recovery, and I thank God that I have a supportive system, and that's how I've been able to make it this far. I'm also a mental health advocate. I have a YouTube channel, All Things Bipolar Disorder, where I do most of my mental health advocacy. But before I had the channel, I was also a former champion with the Time to Change Global program from the UK. So that's basically what I've been up to. And it's a pleasure to meet you.
Very good.
Sorry for being late.
Very good, S&M, for that intro. Please go ahead and tell us, what was your onset like? How was it swinging between the two ends of the pole? What was it like? What was your experiences?
Okay, so it was at the time I didn't know what was going on with me. I was dating someone. I broke up with them, and then it made me depressed. I didn't know anything about mental health. I didn't know that what I was going through was depression. So most of the time when I was in school in that my second year last semester, I was depressed. But when I came home, it was the mania that was manifesting itself most of the time. So I was very irritable. I would break things, and my behavior was very, very violent. And then I'll swing to depression. I didn't know what was going on with me, but I just didn't like what I was going through. And my parents too couldn't tell. So everybody, we all thought it was spiritual. Somebody's doing me, somebody doesn't want me to progress, my family, somebody, people, pastors gave us different reasons why all this was happening to me. And so that was how it was like. It wasn't easy for me because when I'm manic, what I do is I spend most of my money. So I'll go on shopping sprees. I would get in debt. Sometimes I'll invite people to my room at campus and say, "Oh, I want to buy your shoes, or I want to buy your slippers," something, and then I would just collect it from them and then get in debt. And sometimes too, it was embarrassing. People will go around and talk behind my back, "Oh, Esenam, that's how she is. And she's changing. She's dressing seductively to class. She's not the kind of person we thought." So it's like the people who knew me before realized that I had changed. I was not the person they used to know anymore. And it brought shame to me, a lot of shame. As for mania, it brought me a lot of shame. It's not something I'm happy about or I'm proud, but there were some proud moments. Like it will give you some confidence that you've never had in your life before. And it's also, it helped in some ways. Things that I was afraid to do, then I could do them.
All right, thank you very much, Esenam,
Thank you
for
too.
sharing your experiences with us. That's very brave. We encourage you. I know that we are with you.
Thank you.
Dr. Amma has shared the manifestations of bipolar disorders. Esenam and DNA have also shared your experiences, which both of them are very consistent with each other. Dr. Amma, can you please tell us what specific role would you play in the management of a person with bipolar disorder? We've had that of Dr. Erica, who's a clinical psychologist. Let's hear that of the psychiatrist, and we'll see how both complement with each other. Then we get into the main issue of the psychosocial support for persons with bipolar disorder. Dr. Amma. Hello, Dr. Amma. Hello, Dr. Amma. Well, I think Dr. Amma has just tripped off. Let me get back to you, DNA. Getting to the main issue about the psychosocial support, what has been your experiences with the psychosocial support that you receive?
Okay, thank you for the question. In terms of psychosocial support, I would say that in the beginning, I received most of my support from my mother. And the most difficult part for me with bipolar was suicidal ideation during the depressive mood. And that was when a few times while I was in university, I called her when I was suicidal. So that was one of, so then she talked to me and she encouraged me. I remember one time when I went to buy some medication and I wanted to abuse it and take my life. And I was crying on the phone and she was able to talk me out of it. So so my mom played a big role in that. And there was also a period when I was suicidal and I was caught in the act. And my mom spent the night with me in my room, and she talked to me, she encouraged me, told me how much she loved me. So that was also another form of psychosocial support. And then she was first to recognize signs of declining health. For her, when my room was untidy, then it means that David was going into depression. David was getting careless with his life. And, and because depression was a period when I most often attempt suicide, she would always be very proactive in that area. And then she would immediately book an appointment with a psychologist so that I would go and see the doctor. And during that time at the hospital, talking to the psychologist, I received help on how to manage how to manage the symptoms, how to manage the thoughts, especially the side ideations and the inferiority complex and all that. So that was it. And then during that period, I kept asking my psychologist because no one really understood me. My family and my friends, they although they try to help you, they will not be able to understand the pain that you are going through. And so I was always looking for avenues to connect with people who have the same challenge as myself. And but it took me years before I found the first person. I met Apna. Apna was the first person I think I met, and that was in 2017. Apna Koko. And then later on, I met SC, and then I met Doctors, and I joined Doctors organization. That's others like me, and they're a support group, and we support each other. So that was also very helpful for my journey. It provided me, I mean, an association of people who are going through the same challenges and who provide you with their coping mechanisms and all that. Yeah. That will play a major role in the psychosocial support that I receive with my condition.
Very good, DNA. So it looks like this experiences has been very recently in the last few years, not when your condition started, is it?
No, in the university, that was in 2010. 2010. So that was when I was diagnosed with bipolar, and that was when my mother started being involved in my recovery. Yeah, but as with meeting a support group, finding a support group, 2010, maybe 2015, there I started seeing a psychologist. I was seeing a psychiatrist before then, but I started seeing a psychologist later on, and then the support group that was recently in 2017, 18. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that response. SNM, would you like to share your views on what you have also experienced with regards to psychosocial support?
Okay, so when it comes to psychosocial support, you see, in Ghana, there isn't, okay, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there wasn't a lot of mental health awareness. I didn't even know anything about mental health, and I didn't even know anybody I could personally relate to. So getting diagnosed at the time was like a death sentence. You don't know anybody who has a mental health condition. You don't know anybody like you. It just felt lonely back then. And my first psychiatrist, he didn't relate with me as a person with empathy. All he did was, like, when I walk into the room, he's just writing my next prescription. He didn't ask me questions about how I'm really doing. So I thought all psychologists and psychiatrists were like that. So when it came to the time where I met a new psychologist, that's Dr. May Kalen Caesar, she wanted to refer me to someone else. And I told her, like, with my previous experience, I don't think I want to see anyone new. You are all like that. You are all not, like, you don't relate with us on a personal level. And she told me this new doctor will really, really help me. And that was Dr. Levin Najima. And then I met new doctors at Kolebu, like Dr. Rita, Dr. Harding, Nurse Robert. Those people, all these other doctors that came after my previous doctor, have really, really helped me to get to the level I've reached. Even when it comes to the how I see my road to recovery, my perspective has changed, because I wanted to know if when I take my medicine, that's like a quick fix, I'll be fine. They didn't want to tell me it could take years for me to see a lot of progress and stability in my life. All they told me was, you should take one day at a time, one day at a time. And that gave me a lot of hope and encouragement. I didn't even know bipolar was maybe a lifelong illness for some people, but they never told me anything like that. They made my road to recovery much, much better. And my family has been very, very supportive. I didn't even know what stigma was like till 2019, because people in the mental health community, like Abena Koko, I always say Abena is my mentor when it comes to mental health, because when I saw her on the KSM show in 2018 or 2017, one of them, and she was sharing her lived experience, I had so much hope, because I actually resonated with her. So I knew that, oh, okay, this girl has been through all I've been through. Let me contact her. And that's when she made me join her support group, Psychosocial Africa, which gave me a whole new, like, family. The thing with having a mental health condition is that when you meet people who also have mental health conditions, they feel like your family members. Like DNA, I've never seen him in person, not even once, but I feel like he's my family member. When I see people on the streets, like vagrants, I feel like they are my family members, just because they have something that I can connect with on some level. So when I look at that kind of support, it has helped me. I got fired from my job after telling my boss that I have a mental health condition. She went and told other members of management I was fired for on the basis that, oh, because of your diagnosis, we don't want you anymore. I think about it. What if I wasn't in a support? I didn't have a supportive system like the organization I was doing voluntary work with, like Time to Change Global. Over there, we were trained and taught that no one should make you don't have any reason to feel worthless or ashamed or isolated because of a mental health condition. So because of that training, getting fired didn't affect me. I'm thinking if I wasn't in that organization, it would have really affected me because I didn't have that kind of support. And not everyone is privileged like I am. I'd like to look at, okay, so what about the many people who are not privileged like I am? What if I didn't have that kind of special relationship with God? I would have given up a long time ago and I will not reach where I've reached. That's why I and so many other mental health advocates, we are making a lot of noise so that when you feel something or you see something, you will just easily go and seek some psychosocial support. Because in Ghana, when you think of psychosocial support, most people see it's like, oh, they are saying I'm going to where the crazy people are being treated. Meanwhile, too, if I tell my friend, oh, I'm going to see a cardiologist, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm going to see a dentist. But the moment you say you are going to a mental health unit, it looks like you are seeking support because you are crazy. So we just want to normalize those kinds of conversations. And it's very, very close to my heart. I'm sure if my father didn't seek psychosocial support for me, my condition would have been so worse that I wouldn't have been able to graduate. I will not be able to give back to society like the way I'm doing. So support is available, but some people are not even aware. Little children are not even aware that there's a job called psychologist, psychiatrist, so that more people can grow up having the passion to go into that field. People are not aware. So that's what I have to say concerning psychosocial support.
Wow, that's quite detailed there. And I could feel the stigma that you've experienced over the years, as well as from that of DNA. But it's all for this reason that we are having this session, that people would have that knowledge and attitude to support each other. Dr. Erica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. To clarify what DNA and SNM has said, can you be specific the kind of psychosocial support that we can give to our friends, family members, colleagues, and all that, so that we'll be in the know?
All right. So I think that they shared appropriately their experiences, which ties in very well with what should be. Psychosocial support starts from home. So family members, friends, ensuring that in their behaviors and expressions and attitudes towards anyone living with the disease, that they make them feel human. They respect them. They look out for them. They meet their needs and generally express that love and care that we all expect from everybody. And this is important because no one who lives with the disorder should feel like they are being disrespected just because they are unwell. And then we know that this is a chronic disease or a chronic disorder. I think it was, one of the other panelists mentioned how she didn't have a clue about the fact that this was going to be a lifelong thing. The education must be given by any practitioner who attends to and finds out that this person has bipolar disorder. You must prepare them in the same way you go to a hospital, you find out you have hypertension or diabetes. You need to be educated to understand what this means and the fact that you are going to be taking lifelong medications. And it doesn't stop there. If you had hypertension, your doctor would advise you on your salt intake, on exercise, and so on. Similarly, in engaging with somebody who has bipolar, you must educate them to understand the illness so that they can live fulfilled. So all mental health practitioners, whether mental health nurses, psychiatrists, psychologists, are expected to give at least that minimum of giving adequate information and ensuring that they have the opportunity to ask questions. So it's not like malaria, you enter, headache, fever, you have malaria, take your medicine and you're gone. There needs to be a lot of interaction, you know, to be able to explore what the concerns of this person is, what bugs their mind, how you can help them problem solve, how you can help them arrive at major decisions and the like. So support is not only from the family, but also from health practitioners in how they interact with the client. And as far as psychologists are concerned, and I'm happy that she mentioned that she sees a psychologist and she was pleased that this person changed her perspective as far as health persons that take care of persons with mental health. Because we spend a lot of time, a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour and sometimes more is given each client to be able to air their thoughts, to be able to bring out the issues of concern so they are walked through. And then lastly, support groups. Yes, it feels very important when you feel as like part of a family of people with the same concerns. All of you have similar challenges, and therefore when you speak about it, the next person understands you. This is contrary to family members who may not have experienced this themselves. So they may tell you when you're feeling depressed that, oh, snap out of it, you are not praying enough, you should do fasting and prayer and so on and so forth. It gets challenging and it makes you feel like you're not doing enough, when indeed you know that you are putting in a lot. So support groups are also a good source of support. And so it's good to know that in Ghana, we have support groups now for persons living with mental disorders of all kinds, and especially for bipolar disorder. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Amma, are you there?
Yes.
Good.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can.
Please, can you hear me now? Okay, that's good.
I can hear you now. So to add to what Dr. Erica just said, from your perspective, of what significance do you think that psychosocial support can play in the management of a person with the bipolar disorder? You usually do with the biomedical aspect of it, but from your perspective, of what significance do you think that could play?
Thank you. Dr. Arthur, please, can I go back, because I realized that for the previous question, I wasn't able to answer because
Yes.
Apparently I had muted myself. So
Okay.
I want to go back to the fact that when we look at the management of bipolar disorders, we are looking at it from the point of view that there is a three-pronged approach to the management, just as when we come to the causes. So if we look at risk factors, if we look at causes of bipolar affective disorder, we are looking at biological factors, we are looking at psychological factors, and we are looking at social factors. So when it comes to the management, we are looking at all these factors and tackling them at the point or their root point. Otherwise, you would be giving somebody a lot of medications. But just like Dr. Erica said, there are a lot of psychosocial issues surrounding this whole thing. So without, tackling these points, that is the biological points, that is where we give, medications. Sometimes we do what we call ECT, where we apply electrical stimulus to the brain. We do TMS. And then depending on what the other social and then psychological risk factors or triggers are, then we will add on the psychosocial support. So psychosocial support is very, very important, just as the two people with lived experience, have told us. No one is an island, especially for bipolar affective disorder, which is a chronic illness. Invariably, the person lives with it for almost, the whole of the person's life. even though there are times of remission where they are doing very well. But just like any other chronic illness, you know you are living with it. So if somebody has diabetes, he knows I'm living with it. But sometimes they have crisis. If somebody has hypertension, they live with it. Sometimes, most of the time, they are well. But if certain things do not happen rightly, then they go into crisis. It is the same for people living with bipolar. So, like Esinam said, when she had a manic episode, it was a really difficult time for her. Sometimes, because of the presentation, they are socially disinhibited. So they do a lot of things that they wouldn't normally do. And then it causes them a lot of embarrassment. Now, when we listened to DNA also talks about experiences of being suicidal. Had it not been the fact that he received that support, his mom was always looking out for him and knew when he was depressed, always made him felt loved. That is how he was able to come out of this. So psychosocial support is very, very important. What I would say is that we can train, people, health workers, people around us to be able to give people the support, the psychosocial support that they need. But again, like you have brought on this platform, there's a place for specialized care. So the psychologist is trained to give this form of specialized care. So they deal with the issues as, the very severe ones, the ones that are not responding to what every other person form of support that people are given. In the same way that the psychologist, the psychiatrist also prescribe medications or prescribe other forms of treatment to tackle it. So psychosocial support, without psychosocial support, I must say, it will be very, very difficult for people to go through bipolar because it is not just the individual that is suffering. The family members are in the suffering together with the person as well. And then the stigma and discrimination is real. It's so real. I was a bit disappointed that Esinam had that experience with the psychiatrist, where she felt that the psychiatrist was not as nice as should have been. I want to assure Esinam that most of us are nice people. It's just that probably she just met one that had a bit of a challenge, but she shouldn't, or any other person shouldn't hesitate to contact a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist when there's the need for, because we need to work together. People live with bipolar for almost, the rest of their lives, but with the support, in terms of the psychosocial support and all that, they are able to live better lives. It helps with the recovery process. It is not just giving the person medications or other forms of treatment, but it's so important that people know that there are others that care around them. There are other people that are looking out for them. I mean, if people are concerned and we are careful about even what we say or our reactions or attitude towards them, then it also helps them feel that, yes, they are human beings. Let's all remember that nobody is immune to this. Anybody at all can suffer bipolar disorder. So we have to be very careful and give people the support anytime that we find the need to. Let's always, try to put ourselves in the place of the person. Ask ourselves, how would we want people to treat us if we were in that particular state, so that we give them the support that they need. We are all able to, except that in certain circumstances or instances, in severe cases, then we would need just a specialist to be able to do that. But psychosocial support is very, very, very important in the care of the individual and the family members as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wood. At this point, we cannot say that psychosocial support is not important. It's very much of significance. Probably I would ask Professor Akwesiose to add his voice to what we just espoused. Prof, are you there, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to affirm every single word that has been made by both the mental personnel and our distinguished persons with lived experience. Psychosocial support cannot be overemphasized. Medication, when it's indicated, is definitely needed, and other forms of therapy. But then the support that we can give, psychosocial, and this can be provided by family members, this can be provided by mental health experts, this can be provided by church elders or pastors, colleagues. The support, and then of course, self-help group. That support becomes very crucial. Mental health issues are issues that arise both from, well, you know, the mind is when the brain functions, and the brain is part of the body. And any problem of the body can affect the brain and can affect the mind. And not only the body itself, but circumstances outside the body, that's environmental factors, social circumstances, economic factors, all these become stress that can be on the body and can affect our mental health outcomes. And psychosocial support is that which will be able to complement whatever medication that is being used. So it is very, very crucial. I would also add that a patient or somebody may go to a hospital with features of depression. This is a point I'm particularly making an appeal, if I may put it that way, to health personnel generally and mental health personnel in particular. Now, somebody comes to you with depression or features of depression. It's not enough to rest on the depression and treat it and send a person away without asking of previous experience. The point is that the previous experience may tell you whether you are dealing with a bipolar disorder or simply depression. That's a major depressive illness. Because the treatment for both are a little different. So if you assume that, yes, he is presenting to you now with depression and you treat with antidepressants and you let the person go, the chances are very great that he will come with a full-blown bipolar. But if you had asked about his previous experience, whether he has had a situation he felt elated, he felt he was bigger than size, he had bigger than size image of himself, features of mania, if he had it plus his current picture of depression, then you know you are dealing with bipolar. And that makes a big difference in terms of how you treat him, both your physical medications and psychosocial treatment. So this is an appeal, and often bipolar is missed and only diagnosed as depression. And that is very important because if you miss it, it makes the treatment more difficult, and it makes the situation likely to recur when you could have handled it very easily. That also means that back at home in the community, if you see anybody who looks a little withdrawn to himself, let's take this person to the specialist who will investigate or assess for the full-blown picture of bipolar and see whether that could be what is at the bottom of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. You answered a bit of the question that I had in mind, but I'll still all the same ask this question to enhance our observational skills. I present to you a family member. What are the kind of questions you would ask me so that in the near future, all of us will be observant to some of these things? Like just you mentioned the withdrawal, you see somebody who is withdrawn. What are the kind of questions that you would ask me so that we would be observant with some of these things?
You bring a patient to us. Of course, the first is, why did you bring this patient? What was it that you saw that made you bring this person? Maybe you say that, oh, he's behaving aggressively, whatever the description that you give. You will explore that further, because sometimes your understanding of what is it you are bringing may be different from our technical understanding of that same thing. So you explore further. You say he's withdrawn. What exactly do you mean by withdrawn? After we've had a good understanding, what are other features associated with the very picture you presented? Because that may, you say that the devil is in the details. That may get us to know the full picture that you are presenting rather than just the surface that you are telling us. And then you want to understand how long this has been. And that's very important. In mental health issues, the duration of the current picture makes one diagnosis different from another diagnosis. So it's very important. Well, I think Dr. Boadu said that he must have presented with about 2 weeks. Yes. If somebody becomes withdrawn only yesterday and today, and for the very first time, you will certainly not diagnose depression nor bipolar. So the duration is very important to us. And then, has this person had this very picture or in the past, or he has had any encounter with mental health issues or been to a psychiatric hospital? In other words, we're trying to go into the history beyond what you described, his past experience. And then, in fact, even physically, what has happened to him. And then other things, we go into the family history, a whole lot of things. In other words, a complete assessment of this person. And that can take a whole 1 hour or even 2 hours, depending. Sometimes we may not finish, and then we book for another appointment, depending on what we are seeing. Or we may ask you to come with other corroborators, other persons to come and add to the history you are getting. It's a full assessment that will enable us to know, because once you're able to diagnose, you are more than half through with the solution. But if you miss it, everything else that you add, you may be just playing on the surface and you may not be helping the person.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much. SNM, please let me ask you, do you think that the support that you have received so far could have been better? What would you have wished for? I mean, in the workplace, at home, at church, family members, what you have received so far, could it have been better? What do you wish for?
Well, I always say there's always more room for improvement. Well, as a person living with a mental health condition, it's not just me, but it's for everyone who has a mental health condition. We would just wish you treat us as normal people. You know, sometimes even in my home, I don't sleep after certain hours because my parents might think I have a manic episode. Maybe that's just the time I want to sleep. But when they start noticing certain symptoms, they say, hey, your thing is coming or your thing is coming. My parents don't like say that thing, but they might say it in another way. And other friends of mine with mental health conditions get that all the time. If something is wrong, hey, are you taking your medicine? We'll go to the hospital on Monday. Me want to like
So,
it's like you can't
SNM,
be
so
yeah.
are you saying that it's the language that people use in conversing with you has the greatest impact on you?
Yes, I think it's language. To me, that's very like it's really on my heart. I wish that yes, we have a mental health condition, but don't base it on everything. Like sometimes it's like they don't expect you, people don't expect you to be angry. Meanwhile, you do something to hurt the person's feeling. It's wrong if you use your anger to hurt someone, but it's like you don't have the right to be angry. You don't have the right to express certain emotions. Even in my house, I don't sing loudly when my father is around because maybe he might think there's something going on with me. Meanwhile, I'm just happy. It's language. And also, what some of the side effects of the medication, like weight gain. People people just meet you all the time. Before
All
medication,
right.
I was about 68 kilos and now I'm weighing like 92.5 through no fault of mine. I didn't choose to be big, but people will always be like commenting on your weight. They think it's okay publicly, and it's not nice. Language me to me, that's the very thing. Language is, if you say you really love someone and you want to support them, treat them as normally as possible. The language to you should be as caring as possible. Don't be reminding us of the condition. Me, I don't remember I have a condition. Even when I'm taking my medication, I don't remember. But the moment someone says that's when I remember that, oh, I live with this thing. So I think if that is improved, but in looking at other, like comparing the support that I get from the hospital and all that, I think it's great. Kolebu is that's where I get my my psychosocial support when it comes to treatment. They have really helped me in so many ways. I even used to have a community mental health nurse, Robert, who used to come to my house, check up on me, encourage me if I'm not feeling well to come back to the hospital if there's something wrong. So that's what I think can be done. Thank you.
All right, thank you, SNM. DNA, can you share your experience?
Okay. When it comes to what, like as I mentioned, anything can be improved. Everything. There's room for improvement in anything. Personally, when I look back, I would say that I showed all the signs. But if people around me were educated enough, if people around me had awareness, they would all have been able to tell that something was wrong. That's very early in the onset when the signs were not very extreme. Yeah. So if that had happened, then I would have started on medication very early. And then also, when I was diagnosed, first I was diagnosed with depression. First, I would say, as I mentioned, that I think uh, bipolar is one of the most severe mental disorders. And so I believe it should be the first thing to rule out when you see a doctor, because that could destroy you the most. And I was at the beginning of my most productive years. That was in 19 years, 20 years. I was in the university, and when everything went out of hand and I dropped out of the university, I believe that if they were able to detect it very early in when it started, I would have gotten the treatment that I needed. I'd have stayed in school and graduated. But and then so that was it. And then the next thing was when I started seeing my doctor too, I I kept asking my doctor, is there any support group out there? Can I meet a support group? Can I meet people like me? Uh, and he kept telling me that he didn't know of any. He didn't know of any. So it was my dream that when I recovered, I would start a support group. When I recovered, I would start a support group, be an inspiration to others. And I believe that the doctors, if it's possible, they should recommend support groups to their patients, and they should know all the support groups available in the country. I mean, there's so many of them. I've now, of course, started Psychosocial. There is others like me. I've had a number of others to it. There are others who have their own, not as organizations, but small WhatsApp groups and all that. The doctors should know all this so that they can recommend it to their patient. Because bipolar is it's a very lonely condition. It's so lonely to go through that condition. And so if you are going through that and you're having a sadder ideation, it helps when you are part of these groups. And so doctors should recommend it at the onset. They should be able to detect it faster, and then they should recommend support groups to their patients. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, DNA. Thank you very much. Dr. Erica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Good. So if I had a friend who has bipolar disorder. We are work colleagues. What kind of support can I give to this friend? Is it only about money? Is it my language? What kind of support can I give to this friend?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that support comes.
I think that in this case, specific examples of psychosocial support that we as other people can provide. I think that a few examples will do the trick.
All right. So yes, people have a lot of financial constraints. And so when you're expecting money, that doesn't always come. But showing understanding, giving a listening ear is very important. Sometimes people want to just vent, want to talk, want to get a different opinion. If you're not sure what to say, don't even say anything, but just be a listening ear. Let them know that you are happy to listen to them. It's always important also to find out from the individual what their needs are. Sometimes we assume too much, but if you ask the person, how can I help? I mean, they would be able to tell you exactly the kind of help that they are seeking from you. And then you can discuss whatever needs they've put out there so that you meet it. You may not be the one able to give that, that support directly, but you could be the one that accompanies them, say, to go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, give them company. If there are little provisions that they need and you are able and capable, you give them that. But I think that showing love, showing care, being respectful, and our colleagues with lived experiences have said so. You know, the fact that we'll tag everything as, oh, this is the bipolar talking, and so on and so forth, it's so disrespectful. So the language we use with them should not be one that puts them down and makes them feel stigmatized. I think this is all that is required from all of us who may be lay persons. And once you're given this, many people living with bipolar would be extremely happy and live a more fruitful life.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, at this point, I guess everybody here will know what they can do to support a friend, a family member, a colleague with bipolar disorder. I think we've gotten to the time where we'll allow attendees to ask our resource persons questions. So I would invite attendees to raise their hand, and I would invite them to ask questions. Okay, Sariam, you are on.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello. Thank you
Go
very
ahead.
much. Can you hear me? All right.
Yes, we can hear you.
I appreciate the organizers of this. Right. I appreciate the organizers of this program so much, and I'm so delighted that this topic has come up for discussion because it has really been on my heart and for some time now. As a community mental health trained nurse, we understand really what the psychosocial support really should be for our clients. It's been lacking in the system, but we are very glad it's come up for discussion and we are going to see more. Now, my question is just basically to the people with lived experience and to everybody anyway. They mentioned that we should use a language that is supportive to them. But I didn't hear them mentioning any particular language that is supportive. For instance, they were like, if you ask them, have you taken your medication? It's quite offensive to them. So what should we ask? What should we say? We really want to know some of these professional or let me say supportive language that we can use to help them in case we need to find out or in case we need to communicate with them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I think we would answer each question as it's answered. DNA or SNM, who would respond first to this question?
I think since I made mention of the language issue, I think I should address it. But if DNA wants to add something to, he can. There are some conversation starters we have. You can just talk about something. Oh, let's say last night I realized that you slept around 10 o'clock. Is everything okay? How are you feeling? How was your sleep the previous night? Oh, I've just seen that it's been a while since we went to buy medication. Do you think we should get we should refill or something? Not that you come direct. There are so many ways to like go around this. Not that you ask direct, hey, you didn't sleep yesterday. You are not taking your medication. I hope that makes a little sense. Just go around. You can't even break what I'm saying into different parts during the day. So maybe in the morning you insert one, in the afternoon insert one, in the evening. Not that you blast the person at once, you give it to them at once about the whole medication thing. And not everything has to be about medication. And it depends on who you are talking to and the time you are talking to them. Maybe you see that the person is really stressed out and you bring that issue. You can see that the person is fully blown manic. A fully blown manic person will not listen to you. Me, when I'm manic, I see anybody who talks to me about my medication as an enemy. And when I put you in that enemy category, nothing you say to me, I will not listen to. So you have to just say it in a nice way, in a different way. And the person who asked, I think you're a mental health professional. So I think they train you people on those things in your studies, because recently I was in a training workshop about training of mental health workers on psychosocial skills, like breaking of bad news to a client that the client has COVID-19. You don't just go directly, madam, please, your results says that you are positive. No, you start saying there are ways of going about it. Oh, so your test
Listen, I'm
results
sorry.
are in.
Listen, I'm sorry. You've made your point.
Yeah.
You are running out of time. If DNA,
Sorry about that.
That's all right. DNA, do you want to add something?
Yeah. I want to add a little to. I think the principles to addressing someone with mental health condition, especially bipolar, because of their mood swings, it's very important first to be empathetic. You have to put yourself in that person's shoes to be able to understand and then converse with that person. So on a level plane, and then dignity. You address the person not as a child. Sometimes because our behavior seems out of the ordinary, you are treated like children. Go and do this. You always dirty. Why are you doing this? That kind of communication is condescending. As if you are not a human. It has to be. It has to be with respect and dignity. And then the third one is the timing. When you talk about what and what you talk about when is very important. So that's what I want to add.
All right. Thank you very much. Please go off.
Yeah.
All right, Rita. Hello, Rita.
Hello, and thank you very much for this insightful seminar. And my question is, from their narratives, I realize there is an issue of misdiagnosis or delayed in diagnosis. And since mental health conditions could be culturally specific, I would like to know whether there are any measures that have been normed in the Ghanaian context for diagnosing bipolar disorder. If not, then what's the way forward as researchers and then clinicians? Thank you.
All right, I think your question will go to Dr. Amma. Dr. Amma, are you there? Or Prof? Hello?
Dr. Amma, if you are immediately there, maybe I'll leave it to you. Otherwise, I will come in.
Prof, please come in.
Okay, all right. So, just as you said, mental health professionals, by their training, we are supposed to have learned the rudiments of making this diagnosis. So that one is important, that we need to reinforce the training. That is one. Two, it's not enough to have trained somebody 10 years ago, 50 years ago, and that's enough. So we need to continue to give in-service training, refresher training, so that people will be reminded of even what they were taught yesterday and current approaches today. So in-service training. And then also, as we move on, we are trying to develop protocols for various conditions. We haven't gone far with that yet. In fact, it's not started much yet, but that will be. So those are the three strong approaches. One, the training that we received or was given to us in our school days. That is very important, and it will need to be reinforced through in-service training, continuous training, and three protocols that can be developed, targeted specifically at various conditions.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, I'm done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Governor Fossen, you're on.
Yes, please. Thank you for the opportunity. I just would want to add on to, it's not a question, it's just an addition to the discussions that's going on. I was part of, if I may want to reference a statement that Esena mentioned, that, for example, she was in an institution that gave her the sack for being a bipolar patient. I feel that sometimes we should also look at the positive side of it. It's all part of the social support system that we give to patients. So, for example, if a patient thinks that giving a certain support could mean that I am incapable of doing what it is, then I think no matter what kind of support you give, it will still not be seen. For example, if I might cite that instance that Esina mentioned, I was part of the institution that she was working in before she left. Actually, she was sacked for the reason that she was actually taking care of younger kids. It was an educational institution. And these were really smaller kids that can't take responsibility for their own actions. They are kindergartners. And having been told the management of the school that I have this condition, I feel that they thought it wise that the onus lies on them to protect the teacher and the student as well. Because there could be instances where you could be very irritable, and the students may provoke you to the extent that you may do the unthinkable, or you may have taken your medications, and as one of the side effects of the medication, sometimes you feel like resting more, and so you may be taking a nap in between lessons, and then something happens at the blind side of you. You know, that's what management taught us.
Hello,
Dr. Mankwata,
Kobna, I think you are
I
not
think
hearing me. Esna, please hold on. Kobna, I think I did mention about sensitivity to making opinions and asking questions. You are not doing that, so you have to go off now. You are not doing the right thing.
I don't know why he came here to say
please,
this,
Esna,
but
please, can we discuss this off the platform, please?
yeah, but my dignity is at stake and my integrity.
Please respond, Esna.
All I have to say is that what he has come to say right now is I want to say the truth. Kopna was the school counselor at where I was teaching. And when I told my story, I was called for a meeting to share my story. And I shared it. And he responded that, oh, because she has a mental health condition, she is violent. I don't say this all the time, that I'm violent and dangerous and I cannot work with this kind of children. Yes, how I was fired was what pained me, because even in the CRPD.
Esna, you've made your point very
Yes,
well.
I think that's okay.
Yes, you've made your point very well. Kobna, you've not done good in this case. Please, may I advise further commentators, those who are asking questions about the sensitivity of what we are doing. I think I did mention that in our housekeeping. So please, be sensitive in the kind of questions you ask. If you are not being sensitive, I would immediately take you off. Wabin, you are on.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Mangwa, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My question is should go to Dr. Sek and the Mental Health Authority. Some of us are in the community. We are more like the mental health professionals that try to prevent the conditions from coming to the hospitals. But there's always a disconnect between the psychiatrists in the bigger hospitals and those of us in the community. I don't know how we could bridge that gap, and what can we do? Because some of us, sometimes we need some assistance. We don't know who to call. You know, some of us don't have some of the psychiatrists. We don't have their numbers. So I don't know what can Mental Health Authority and Ghana Health Service, especially, because I've seen that there's a disconnect in Ghana Health Service and Mental Health Authority. What can they do to bridge those gaps so that
hello, Wabin. Hello, Wabin.
Yes.
Hello, Wabin.
Yes, doctor.
We have an issue about psychosocial support that we are discussing. Your question is not in any way related to psychosocial support.
Actually, yeah.
It is not.
It borders around.
I would have to take you off. I would have to take you off now.
Okay.
Yeah. What do
Click on the three dots and remove. Don't repose.
Hello, Patience, you're on. Patience Osaka, you're on. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Right, okay. Right. So I'm actually my question actually borders along what the gentleman who spoke just now did outline. My question is about I need to find out the psychosocial support that you have. I'm glad to hear that there's psychosocial support in place in the system, but is there a structure whereby all professionals involved in the welfare needs of people with mental health related issues are in sync of the interventional plan? I say that the reason why I'm saying that we run a 24-hour helpline and for EAP services for employees and employers, and some of the mental health related issues that has come to our consultation is that what usually happens is that when you want some information about other aspects or other professionals who are involved in the provision of mental health care for our client or patient, we don't have a structured approach. So you end up talking to different people. So there's no sync, there is no link. So everything seems a bit fractured. And again, I mean, I've lived most of my life in the UK, and we do have those structures in place whereby we have the CPN, we have multidisciplinary team. So we link up with the community. So everybody who is involved in promoting and safeguarding the welfare needs of mental health patients or clients are in sync. So this issue to do with even a bipolar friendly language in terms of supporting people, that is something that is like a staple thing for everybody. So I would like to know more about the system and how best we can all work together collaboratively to promote effective and well-meaning mental health care support and psychosocial support.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your question. Prof, please, are you there to respond?
Yes, I'm here. I think what we all need to recognize that Ghana we are all at different levels of development in terms of our mental health care. That's very important. And you made a very crucial point that you have the structures over there. We are now developing these structures in Ghana. You might be interested to know that we only had our modern mental health law only 9 years ago in 2012. And we are now still in the process of implementing the structures called for by the law. Elsewhere, you have had a modern law much earlier. So there are some structures that are not here. We recognize we need them, but you don't have them yet, and we are now putting them in place. So as we are saying, such as psychosocial, indeed, before Abena came up with this psychosocial group, and well, before then a few others, we really didn't have any structured program outside the psychiatric hospitals to give care in terms of self-help support. So we are now beginning to have them. So we need to be patient with ourselves as we put in place the structures. That is one. And two, we always welcome new ideas. So you can always support the mental health authority and share ideas. That is welcome. Quite a few people have come and we discuss that and see the way forward. That's very important. But once I don't know whether I can take advantage and discuss, mention a few others. So maybe during my conclusion that I can bring them up. I'll end it during the conclusion, I can bring them up.
Yes, please. I think so. Dr. Amabodi, would you like to speak?
Yes. Just like Prof. Osei has just said, we are now putting together our structures. But I think that for a start, we are doing well with the helplines. Currently, there are helplines for people that need support. And it's been 24 hours. I mean, anytime you call on those numbers, I'm sure by the end of today's webinar, we will put them up again. Anytime you call on the people, on these numbers, you will get the support. You'll be referred to a particular facility where you will get the support that you need. So we are working at it. Earlier on, I had wanted to take the opportunity to say something about how we handle people. Looking at, I'm sorry to, take us back to what had happened between Esinam and her co-worker. I'm sorry I need to bring it up again because it's very important. I would want to say that for everybody that suffers, any form of mental disorder and bipolar disorder in particular, as we are talking about for today, they are human beings just as we are. Just as people can suffer from any form of, chronic disorder, and then we are able to live with them, making room for the complications that come in. It's the same way we need to look at people who have bipolar disorder. The mere fact that the individual suffers from a particular mental disorder means that the person is unwell every time. There are times that the person is doing very well. In this particular instance, yes, if we thought that she was, a threat to the children and all that, yes, if she is in a relapse state, certainly the individual will not be able to function. But I think that we could have reassigned her to another portion. She could have been reassigned some other responsibility instead of dealing with the children directly. So I think that going forward, we can handle some of these things, in this particular way. We don't just say that people have a certain disorder and therefore we give them the sack. It is very, very wrong and against the law. We can reassign people's responsibilities and give them the support to be able to function because they will support. Thank you.
Thank you very Amma. Thank you very much, Amma, for that perspective. Emma Apia, you are on. Hello,
Yeah,
Emma.
hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. I'm on it. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for the program. I'm learning quite a lot every day. So we're talking about psychosocial support, and I think Dr. Amma said a few of the things I wanted to put up in brief. As colleagues were talking, I mean, DNA and HCNAM on the social support aspect, what they brought up, that stood out for me as a counseling psychologist. I think sometimes you should bring us on board because we are in depth in taking care of the emotional aspect of the clients. So she was talking about sometimes it shouldn't all be about you're sick. So she couldn't even sing when her daddy was around. I think we need to intensify. I don't know the education we give to the social support they have, but we need to intensify, let them know that even as normal human beings, we have our days of anger and our days of whatever. So they will still go through the same. So not every anger that they get is as a result of a relapse. I think we should intensify that education so that they can have a normal life as much as possible. So I think Doc Dixon also mentioned the counseling psychology. We would really appreciate if you include us, and then we also give the support that we have to, and also help them to manage their emotions so that even when they are in a relapse, some of these things will come to play as they manage their emotions, and then they'll have a better balanced life. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. I mean, clearly the lack of knowledge about bipolar and the negative attitudes towards bipolar is very evident in our discussion here, and that is the main purpose for this discussion. Going forward, we are hoping that people's knowledge would improve and their attitudes would also get better. I will still advise questioners to be sensitive in their comments and the kind of things that they say at this moment. Andrews Ashinyo. Andrews, you're on.
Dr. Mongwa, thank you. And I also like to thank the panelists for the contribution. And What I'd like to say will be in relation to what my brother in the community was raising, as to find the bridge between the authority and the Ghana Health Service and the nurses in the community. They are on the grassroots and they know the available psychosocial institutions that can benefit these clients. Two, today they are health workers, tomorrow they can be clients. So if they are, it becomes quite frustrating when you don't find a bearing between these institutions, and then over there you become wanting. And in developing these structures, as Professor said, I believe that involvement must be pivotal in developing these structures, so that in rolling it out, in implementing it, they will also be able to reach out and do the best for the clients in the community. I have been an advocate for this, that we should capitalize on the strength and expertise of these community health nurses, because when our clients come to the facilities, after attending to them and they could go to communities, what next? The referral institutions are not able to follow up on these people, but they do. And our care is not always clinical, it's to be community-based. And once they're in the community, they can help us to reduce the amount of relapses or the rate of relapses that will come to the facilities. So their role in this structural development, I will encourage that should be pivotal. And we should also try to listen to them. When I was quite disappointed when you cut him off, he was making a clear point, very strong point. So let's listen to them, let's reach out to them, let's help them in the community to reduce the rate of relapses and readmissions in the facilities. That's what I want to put across. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input, Andrews. I think you have made a point much clearer than he did, because what we are emphasizing now is improving on the psychosocial skills of the community nurses. And I think that I'll leave that to Prof to respond to that, because I think a few ideas are in the pipeline. Prof, if you can please respond to his suggestion.
Yes, thank you. There is really no dichotomy between mental health authority and Ghana Health Service.
Ghana Health Service.
In the regions, we have regional mental health coordinators who are actually staff of Ghana Health Service within the regions, but they've been appointed so that they will coordinate all mental health activities. In the regions, they're doing very well. As I said, we are still putting in place structures. What we need to do, one of the structures that we need to put in place now is to go beyond the regions to the districts, to have district mental health coordinators who, together with the regional coordinators, will ensure that all the various activities, promotion, psychosocial support within the regions and districts are taken care of, so that they are collaborating very well. Indeed, the regional mental health coordinators are members of the health management team of the regions. So there's that collaboration there. But of course, everything can be strengthened and can be improved. That we agree. So we can strengthen that. Often, the other thing is that we may not have, and often we don't have enough financial support to enable them to administer the support, the psychosocial services and the outreach services that they need to provide. This we are working on. As soon as we have adequate funding, all this will be done. So I can assure you that that collaboration is there and we are supporting to the extent possible. But to the extent we'll be able to do it very fully, that a lot depends on our financial capabilities.
Thank you very much, Prof. Rita, your hand is still up. Patience, Osaka, your hand is still up. Andrews, your hand is still up. I don't know if you want to ask new questions. If you do not, can you please drop your hands? Emmanuel, you are on. Hello, Emmanuel.
Yeah, my question, because the Prof is here, I want to ask, what is being done in the area of prevention? We know that prenatally and then infancy, there are things that could be done to lower the risk of mental illness. And I want to know whether the Mental Health Authority has started anything in that direction in terms of working with young women and pregnant women on educating them about how to take care of themselves so that their offspring don't end up with a higher risk of mental health illness. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, for your question. But let me remind attendees again that we are specifically discussing psychosocial support for people with bipolar disorder. So if you can limit your questions into that area, that would be very much appreciated. Doing this goes off the target and we might miss what we really want to discuss. Esther, you are on. Hello, Esther.
Hello, Doc.
Yes,
Good
please go ahead.
afternoon. Please, I want to ask that if I'm living with someone that I suspect is suffering from such a condition, but the person himself or herself is not ready to accept, what approach must I use to help such a person? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. That's a fine question. Erica and Dr. Amma, who would like to respond to this question?
Okay. So first and foremost, I would say that depending on what state the individual is, a lot of times when people are, mentally ill or suffer from one form of the mental illness, depending on the severity of it, they, they sometimes lack insight. That is when they don't even see that they have a problem. In most cases, in the severe cases, they do not realize that they have a problem. But it still also comes to the approach. If the individual doesn't think he or she has a problem and therefore doesn't want to seek help as you would want to suggest or you're suggesting to the individual, I think that there are so many ways, going around it. For instance, like in the examples that had been given already by our colleagues with living experience, if you realize I'm not sleeping well, and you think that is together with other symptoms that makes you feel that I'm not feeling well, I think that when we're able to point out the issues one after the other, to say that for instance, well, you don't think there's anything wrong with you, but have you realized of late you become a bit irritable? Yeah, screaming at people even when people haven't really done things for you to be angry at. Have you noticed you are sleeping a little, excessively these days? Have you noticed there's a change even in the way that you analyze or, think about issues? Let's remember that these are people, they are human beings just like us. For bipolar, they realize there's a problem. The issue is that they are not able to control it. So if we're able to point out these symptoms as we see them, we are able to communicate them in love. I am sure that the person would, most of the time will accept that, yes, I do realize that, there are these changes you're pointing out to me. And then would agree with us to seek help. As if we go about talking to them the way that we do, as though they are not able to think, then certainly we are going to repel every suggestion that we give to them. So it's still about the way we communicate it to them. Let us communicate, well, the things we have seen, the things we have realized, the changes that we have noticed. Let's communicate to them in love. And I'm sure that most of the time they will agree to seek help. We have had, instances where people have relapsed, they are very manic and all that. They won't listen to any person. But when they speak to particular, professionals, no matter what, wherever they are, the mere fact that they have heard this particular person speak to them, they will come to the hospital. So it is the rapport that we establish with the people. If we let them feel that they are human beings just as us, treat them with respect, no matter what happens, they would listen to us. So that is my take on it. Let's treat people, let's communicate in love, let us, know that we understand what they are going through, and then we are ready to help. They will, appreciate and come along with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amabwedu. I think we are way behind time, about 30 minutes behind time, but there are still a lot of people on. So I'll take two more final questions. Two final questions, one from Victus and one from Frida. And then we'll be getting ready to concluding the program. Victus. Hello, Victus, can you hear me? Victus, you're on.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment about the gentleman who passed a comment that was not the best for consumption this afternoon. I think per the purpose of the program, such a person should just be identified and be followed up later so that we can transform it gradually to understand the issues around, and perhaps serve even as an ambassador in the issue of educating all and sundry on the issue of bipolar, so that they can advise and provide appropriate support to everybody. So if we have the contact, we should contact him and rather engage him more so that he can reach out to others with positive thinking about the condition. That is my only suggestion on this issue. It's a bad example, but for good teaching. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Your advice is well noted and the follow-up will be made. The last person to ask a question is Frida. I'm sorry, all those who raised their hands, we are way behind time. And the chairman for the program also has other engagements. So we'll have to wrap up pretty soon. Frida, please go ahead.
Okay, please, I hope, Doc, you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Please go ahead. We all can.
Yes, okay. So my question is, what support do you give to a person who doesn't want to take her medicine? One time she wants to, the next day you have to, and sometimes she just wouldn't take the medication. It becomes quite frustrating. I get confused sometimes. How do I go about it? Thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. Dr. Erica, I think you can quickly respond to that. Hello, Dr. Erica. Hello, Amma, are you there?
Yes.
Amma, can you quickly respond to that?
So thank you once
ahead.
again. What I would want to say is that for anybody that takes medications every day, I mean, let's face it, it's not easy to swallow medications morning and evening. Even for a lot of us, when we have to do antibiotics for 7 days, it's difficult for us. But we also have to let the person understand that, yes, we are living with a condition that needs to be managed with the medications, with other forms of therapy. So, yes, sometimes it can be very, very difficult for the person to take the medications. The reasons why people do not take there are so many reasons why people will not take their medications. One, if they do not if they, having some side effects that they do not like and they are not communicating. For some people, they will just refuse to take their medications without telling anybody exactly why. Then there could be some other reasons, such as they do not really see that they are ill and therefore need to take the medication. Then there could be so many reasons. It is very important for us to try to understand why the person is not taking the medication. Is it that the person is, encountering some side effects that are unpleasant to him or her? Is this because the person doesn't see the need to take the medication? So it's very important that, especially for the people when they come into, back for reviews, it is important for us to discuss, bring these issues up so that whoever is doing the review will know how to go about it. Because we have, long-term medications. Sometimes you can give them medication. So for instance, we can give them a depot injection. And for some people, they take that once in a month, and that is fine. So first, we need to understand why they are not taking the medications. And then let's discuss with whoever their doctors or whoever their prescribers or their therapists are. Then we can see how we can go about it. Either change the medication, reduce the dosage, give them long-term medications. There are several ways to go about it. So don't just be disheartened about this. Come, let's talk about it and we'll know how to help the individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for responding to that and your insights. At this moment, the questions from the attendees have ended. I would ask our resource person to quickly, in 30 seconds each, to make your concluding remarks, asking for more social support, psychosocial support for persons with bipolar disorder. Thereafter, our chief executive would give the closing remarks for this program. And I'll make a few announcements, then we can bring this program to a close. We are way behind time, about 20 minutes behind time. So please, resource persons, each of you should give your concluding remarks in 30 seconds, please.
Can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so first and foremost, I would want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity for us to discuss bipolar and mental health in general. I think that I've seen the comments people suggesting that we should be doing this more often. It's very, very important. On the issue of psychosocial support, what I would want to reiterate is that no matter what, we cannot do without psychosocial support when it comes to the management of mental illness, when it comes to the issue of mental health. We should all be involved. And there's a bit that every individual can do for somebody that is suffering any form of illness, whether they are family members, whether we are in school with them, our work colleagues, church, and all that. Let's all be concerned. And when we see the changes in people, sometimes the people don't even realize that they're having a problem. Let's politely, nicely, point these issues out and help them seek help whilst they are there. If we do not know how to handle the issues, again, I would want to say that there's a 24-hour helpline, which I'm sure that we will put up by the end of this. There are professionals out there who are ready to help and who would, link us up with other forms of support that we need. So we shouldn't stay in our closet suffering alone because there's help available for the individual suffering and the carers and the society as a whole. So I would want to say once again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope that we all go out there being the support for each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amma.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead, Dr.
All right. So yes, I think that it has become clear that every one of us has a role to play. We would entreat that health facilities engage a lot more counseling and clinical psychologists to be able to support persons living with bipolar disorder. And for the rest of us, let us always remember that you may be fine today, tomorrow it could be you. We are all potential mental health patients, kind of. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Alex. Essay or DNA? SNM, DNA.
Okay. What I want to say is directed to persons living with bipolar disorder, and I want to say that just it gets better. No matter what your mind will be telling you, it gets better. You have to reach out and seek psychosocial support. That is how you get better. I've attempted 3 suicides. I've spent 7 years looking for the right medication, and I've lost family and friends, 3 jobs. It gets better. Hang in there. And I also want to thank my family for supporting me through this journey. And I want to thank my very good friends, doctors, Abna Koko and SNM. They've been an inspiration during this time. Yeah, that's all I want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DNA. And finally, SNM.
Okay, I just want to say, sorry, my voice is like this. I was crying a little. I just want to say thank you to you for the opportunity. I'm just hurt, that's all. Don't worry. I just want to say thank you to you all for the opportunity. Like DNA says, it gets better. And the World Health Organization says that 1 in 4 people experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. So it can happen to anybody, it can happen to you. So let's show more compassion and let's read more about mental health conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SNM. I guess our psychiatrists and our clinical psychologists will be in touch with you the moment this program is over and follow up. Thank you very much, but be brave and hang in there. We are with you. At this point, we would like to ask our Chief Executive to give the closing remarks for this program. Prof, if you are there, please take it.
Yes, I'm there. Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur, and thank you very much, our resource persons and our contributors, our participants. It's great that, yes, there is a need for such programs, and I think you will discuss and probably institutionalize a monthly webinar. Wow. We should be able to do that. So I think that would be great on different aspects of mental health care. Thanks to COVID, that has shown us that we don't need to be physically present. We can use these virtual meetings to educate ourselves. So that will be taken note of. Now, let me just talk about the language that was mentioned, the need for the appropriate language. It's very important. The guiding principle will be to see persons with mental illness as first and foremost human beings, persons like you and me, first, before you see their illness. So they are persons with all rights, all dignity, all respect, who happen to have a mental illness. If you see that way, you will give them the full respect. But if you see them as a bipolar patient, we see the illness first before the person behind the illness, we are likely to abuse their rights, and that is very important. So, and if you put ourselves in their shoes, we'll be able to determine what is their preference, what would be the way that if I were in their shoes, I would prefer to be addressed. That is very important. And Ms. Dra made another very important point, that when you have this illness, then it is supposed that you can never be happy, you can never be sad. So when somebody is appropriately sad because there's a real stimulus, or appropriately happy because a real stimulus, you say his or her illness has come. No, it does not mean that you've had this illness, therefore you cannot be legitimately happy or legitimately sad. So let's not judge their emotions as a relapse of the condition. That's very important. Now, having said so, let me also say that we also need to take persons with mental health problems, bipolar and others, through resilience training. It's equally important that we get them to be resilient. This education we are giving cannot get to everybody. So there'll be somebody who would not have heard us, and you move out, he may present a language that could be hurtful. But if you've been made so to develop that resilience, you will know how not to be too much affected. And that's very important. Now, lastly, let me say that, and I'm not revisiting the issue of Edna being, no, the unfortunate comment by Roxanne. But there's a difference between releasing somebody and sacking somebody. And indeed, one of these days, you'll begin to implement the provisions of the mental health law. Sacking in the way that happened amounts to abuse of the person's rights, and we can call such a person to the court, and he will have himself or herself to answer for that situation. You could easily have found a better way, and as we discussed, and I won't belabor it, that maybe this job may not be suitable for you at this time. Can we find something else rather than simply sack, and which is a word that was used. And that also tells us that let's not assume that school counselors have mental health skills. We may need to bring school counselors who are not clinical psychologists or counseling psychologists. We may need to bring them on board for purpose of this training, so they will also know how to relate. Thank you very much. On that note, I want to thank you all very much, and the moderator, thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And on my own behalf, I would like to thank everyone, the resource persons, those who asked questions, and the participants for participating in this year's World Bipolar Day celebration. We look forward to seeing you again in other subsequent programs. Just like Prof have said, we would look to organizing monthly programs to all learn for mental health. Thank you very much once again. The program has ended.
Thank you.
Doctor, I thought you give us the
And all the
helplines.
guest speakers, thank you so much.
What is something?
I said the helplines.
Oh, yes. In case somebody has been deeply affected by this conversation, we'll immediately put our helplines on the mental health website, and you can, and social media, and you can easily access it to help others. It will be on pretty soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for this program. Thank you very much.
Emmanuel.
Thank you.